Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I'm very pleased to be able to bring the Scottish Fishermen's Federation A Sea of Opportunity campaign here to Parliament. And I would like to recognise Bertie Armstrong, the Chief Executive of the SFF and the Public Gallery, and Mike Park of the Scottish White Fish Producers Association. Since the outset, the EU Common Fisheries Policy, which has been opposed by our fishermen and my political colleagues in the SNP and by others in other political parties. Indeed, my first speech here in Parliament in 2001 was on the subject of the CFP. In theory, the CFP is a policy that protects the long-term interests of those who fish, those who eat fish, local economies dependent on fish, and the environment upon which our fish depend. In practice, however, its effects have been very different. Firstly, when the UK signed up for the CFP, it signed away rights to fish in our own waters. Today, the majority of fish caught there are by fishing vessels from other jurisdictions, and the majority of our fish are landed elsewhere. Secondly, although those who eat fish can generally buy the fish they want, the majority of it is imported. Now, that's a very strange situation when our waters are the most productive in Europe. Thirdly, the economic benefit to our communities has been much less than it should have been. In England, major fishing ports are all but gone, and the fishing rights that remain are largely in foreign hands. While Scotland has fared somewhat less badly, it has been Norway and in the Faroes that we've seen much of the onshore growth in recent years. Finally, the chaotic fishing councils, I've attended a couple myself, each year have not involved fishermen to any meaningful degree. Those are the people with real knowledge. They're not involved in a dynamic decision-making process, which has often left everyone scratching their heads to justify the outcomes. The SFF's Sea of Opportunity lays out the opportunities that our catching sector that are now available as we look to leave the Common Fisheries Policy. For our processing sector, there are both opportunities and risks. Last week's report of increased losses at Shetland Catch, largely due to the closure of the Russian market, show the dangers of any restriction of access to markets, albeit even if the worst-case scenario should leave us able to sell into the EU, but on what terms we've yet to discover. However, for our catchers, our gaining control of our own waters should be a win-win-win, an opportunity to do things very differently. We have to protect the investments of our fishermen that they've already made in quota under the existing system. But when new quota becomes available, we must look at how to manage this in a way that shares the benefit between the catchers and the communities who, by their proximity to the relevant waters, have a proper interest in it. That will require hard thinking and collaborative working. I don't have the answers. We've all yet to find what might work. On the day we leave the CFP, we need a new management regime in place. It may be reasonable to make changes over time, as disruption at one point is in no one's interest. We need to have agreements in place with other states. But this time, we need to make sure that we make the decisions and keep control on how fishing is undertaken in our waters. A key part of that is to ensure that the management regime protects stocks for future generations of fishermen and for fishing-dependent communities. I'm frequently told of the difficulties sons of fishermen have in becoming established in the business. With increased control, we have the opportunity to control access to quota differently and differentially, without which no new skipper can reasonably fish. Fishermen are independent individuals, often refusing to share their catching data even with members of their own family. They compete with each other as well as with the elements, with management regimes, the hunted fish, and until now, the CFP. So it is a very substantial achievement on the Scottish Fishermen Federation part to have reached an agreed position that reflects the opportunities and risks presented by our leaving the CFP. They're working with our government and with the UK government in a more effective way than for many years, and ensuring we as parliamentarians are informed. But delivery of the prospective control of our waters in a way that suits our interests is not a given. In the 1970s, our rights were traded away to achieve the wider agreement to enter the then EEC. We knew nothing of that deal until it was done. That was too late. That danger exists this time as well, not because of malice on the part of the UK government, but because of expediency, the need to reach a deal, the comparatively small economic contribution of fishing compared to, say, Nissan in Sunderland, which seems positioned for special treatment. And the UK faces a significant resource bottleneck that means allocating civil service expertise to getting the best outcome for fishing may not be top of their priorities. My motion asks that political parties consider, I'm not seeking a commitment to support yet, whether the UK's and Scotland's in particular in fishing interests may not be best served by a Scottish minister leading for the UK in the forthcoming negotiations. Today's speech by the UK Prime Minister delineated potential difficulties for Spanish fishermen through loss of market access to the UK, while saying nothing whatsoever about the position of Scottish and English fishermen. That illustrates a worrying disengagement from the real-life issues that affect our fishing industry. An astonishing insight into how little our industry is on her radar. We need to avoid our prospective rights being traded away as they were 40 years ago. Hence, having our minister at the table is our insurance. It's not a free ticket because they'll have to negotiate for the whole agreed UK position, not solely for Scottish interests. I once again congratulate the SFF. I wish them well. Trust that we here can all support their efforts. Locally in Bamshire and Buchan Coast, the heart of our fishing industry with Shetland, I recognise that all candidates who stood in this year's election voted Remain in the referendum in June, but now expect, as fishermen do, that all of us will be working for the best possible result from our leaving the CFP. Fishing has been central to the history of many Scottish communities. Fishing has to be central to those communities' future as well. Presiding Officer.